Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, and today we are on the floor again, as is the vlog tradition. It feels like it's been a really long time since I have filmed anything, but especially any vlog things. I've been filming a lot of b-roll when I have the chance, like the shelter cat content as usual, and I've been to a Ren fair and I'm going to another Ren fair this weekend, so I'll have a lot of Ren fair b-roll as well. I talked about this a little bit in my last vlog, but I'm working full-time now. I'm technically a per diem employee, so I'm only going to be working on an as-needed rotational basis, but during my training period, I'm working a full-time job basically. And I don't know how much longer the training period is going to go. It could go a few more weeks, it could go a couple months, who knows? But I basically went from not working at all, being unemployed, to working a full-time job, and that has been taking a lot out of me. It's been really draining and tiring in general, especially because I'm working for a shift, so I've had to completely change my sleep schedule, which means less time for my hobbies, so I haven't been doing as much reading or as much of really anything. I haven't played a video game in I don't even know how long. I've been crocheting every day, but that's partly because I have a deadline and I need to be finishing this project, but also it's a nice thing to work on at work. I don't know how much longer I will be on a full-time schedule, and then, you know, working the per diem, I don't know what that's gonna look like. So in the meantime, this is just kind of the way that I'm living. Sorry, I moved you up a little bit, don't panic. But yeah, so with all that context in mind, I haven't been reading that much, but what I have been reading, which I'm so glad I'm finally getting around to this because it's been on my TBR for ages and I've heard so much hype about it, especially this year, and that is Blood Over Brighthaven. This is my broken binding edition. I just have the dust jacket off while I read it. I'm probably about 65% into this, and it's really good. However, it's a very frustrating read. I'm getting ahead of myself, but basically the premise of Blood Over Brighthaven is we're in like a magical world and there is this city under a golden like dome of light. And since this is a fantasy book, it does have like a magical setting. There is a magic system that is really complicated. It basically uses like these magical typewriter things called spellographs. Is it gonna focus? There's this diagram in the book of what the spellograph looks like, but it's basically this magical typewriter. They basically siphon energy using this spellograph from another realm called the Other Realm, and they type on it with a series of runes, and basically it feels a lot like coding. And within this city there's an academy of higher learning, and there's an order of like magistrates and things like that. And our main character Siona is trying to apply to become a high mage through this academy, and there has never been a female high mage, so she is trying to be the first. She's extremely ambitious, she's extremely career oriented, she's very academic, she's very aware of the systems of oppression that exist in this society, in this city, to keep women in subservient roles. And so there's a lot of discussions around misogyny and the subjugation of women in this, but there's also a lot of other topics that we'll touch on in a bit. I think all of this is in the premise, by the way, but Siona takes this test and becomes the first female high mage, and then is assigned to a laboratory for a certain research project, basically. A very high profile research project that could definitely make or break her career and kind of cement her place in history if she succeeds. But the other high mages are not particularly fond of having a woman in their laboratory, and so they kind of sabotage her by assigning her assistant to be this like janitor that was just around that day. And so she has a janitor as an assistant who is also belonging to the racial minority in this city, and there is a lot of discussion around racial injustice. There are different tribes all across the continent, I suppose, that have different societies and different cultures, but they are dying out outside of this dome because there is a lack of resources. But in addition to that, there's this kind of magical disease that's going around called blight, and that is killing a lot of the Quen. And so our janitor, Talmel, is one of the Quen tribes called Caldona, and he has emigrated basically into the city, and he's one of the only surviving members of his tribe. When they tried to cross over, a lot of them died. This is majority single POV, but through Talmel and his discussions with Siona, you get to learn a lot of how the Quen are treated in the city. There is a really, really high degree of religious superiority and religious extremism going on within the city as well. The magic system is very, very tied into the religious system within this world, and because of that, there's a lot of this moral superiority and religious exclusivity going on, where they basically think that the Quen are these primitive, disgusting, base creatures because they don't subscribe to the same belief system that the people of the city, the Tiranish, do. This book is so heavy on themes. There are so many themes that I've already talked about: misogyny, subjugation of women and minorities, racism, classism, religious discrimination, cultural appropriation, religious appropriation. There's a lot to unpack in here, and like I kind of hinted at when I started talking about this is a frustrating book because there are so many characters in this that make you angry. In a lot of ways, Siona ends up being the kind of representation or stand-in for the people of Tehran because, knowingly or not, she encapsulates a lot of the same beliefs and biases that they have. And so, sorry, I'm sitting cross-legged now because my legs were completely asleep. Like I said, Siona is kind of an infuriating character, and she says and does a lot of things that are going to make you really angry at her. I think it's going to start getting better because she has kind of hit this turning point where she's realizing that a lot of the things that she has been told and have become the basis of her belief system throughout her whole life, a lot of those things are being challenged now and being called into question, and she's starting to look more critically at the world around her, but especially about the city. And so there are a lot of themes in this, and I'm really enjoying those themes. I think it's a very valuable discussion, and I'm really excited to see what the rest of this has in store. I'm trying to keep this as spoiler-free as I can, by the way. I really don't want to go too much into it, but I may need a spoiler section later, depending on how the rest of the book goes, so we'll figure that out when we get there. I'm kind of just chipping away at it and taking my time with it because there are so many things I need to mull over every single time I sit down to read this. So this one is taking me a long time to get through. I think I started it in the middle of September and I'm still reading it, and it's October 8th as of today, so I'm almost a month into reading this, but it's taking me a little bit. But yeah, so that's Blood Over Brighthaven. Sorry for the super long tangent on that. The only other thing that I'm reading right now is one that I have barely started, and that is Record of a Spaceborne Few. This is the third book in the Wayfarer series, and I have read all the other books in the Wayfarer series. There was kind of a weird situation where I ended up going from 2 to 4 instead of going book 2, book 3, book 4, and then I just never went back to book 3. From what I can tell based on like the premise of this, it seems like this is kind of a standalone situation within the Wayfarers. There may be some cameos from other characters, but it seems like it's its own plot, and that was very much the same thing with the fourth book. We had a couple cameo characters, so I'm not like completely thrown off by going from 2 to 4 in this case, but I did want to go back and get to this book. I'm literally only 20 pages into this one. I have no thoughts about it. I basically was just in the mood to read something the other night, but I didn't want to pick up Blood Over Brighthaven again, and so I just looked at my shelf for a long time and I said, yeah, that'll work, and then I just laid on the floor and read for like 20 minutes, and that's what happened. I have no thoughts. I have no opinions. I don't even know what's going on, really. I just know that there are so many POVs already. But yeah, so these are what I'm reading right now. Neither of them are really Halloween or October reads. They're not spooky, but it is October, so I need to find the time to read at least one horror this month. I had a whole October hopefuls post that I put up on my Instagram. I'll put the photo somewhere. I think out of all the books in that stack, The Haunting of Hill House is definitely one that I want to read this month because it's fairly short and it is a classic, and worst case scenario, if I start it and I hate it, that's fine. I thrifted it. It's not a big deal. Blood on Her Tongue would be a fun read because it's horror, it's bogs and vampires, and the cover is very spooky as well. I've been honestly looking forward to it for a while, and I've heard mixed things from some of the people I follow, but I did like the other book that I read from this author, which was My Darling Dreadful Thing. Maybe I'll start The Haunting of Hill House because that one is shorter. I don't really know. We're just gonna wing it. We will see where this vlog goes. I truly have no idea when the next time I will speak to you will be. Anyway, I've been rambling for long enough. I will see you in the next update. Alright, it's been a few days. I figured I would come in and give you a little update. It is a lovely, spooky, rainy, gloomy Sunday here. Sorry if you can hear any kind of rumbling or humming in the background. It's just various noises in the condo. Sorry about that. So firstly, I don't know if anybody cares, but I have some crochet updates, and I haven't talked about my crochet really a lot on the channel yet, and it's something I only just got into this summer. I kind of have to show it in portions because it doesn't fit on the frame, but I'm working on a baby blanket. It's a corner-to-corner stitch, so that creates this little wave when you're working on it, and I'm at the point now where I'm trying to end the blanket basically. So I'm doing, when I get to the end of the row, I basically make it into a straight line. The baby shower is next weekend, so I really need to finish this by then. I just used up one whole skein for this so far, so I haven't tied off to a new one yet, which is why I thought it would be the perfect time to show you, since I don't have to drag along a giant ball of yarn. But this is my recent project, and I'm really happy with it. And then I have a couple reading updates. Let's talk first about Record of a Spaceborne Few, just since I'm not done with it yet and I have to share my halfway thoughts. So far, I'm enjoying this one. It's definitely not my favorite of the series. I think I liked books 2 and 4 the most. Those are by far my favorite of the Wayfarer series. I'm only about 30% into it, so I still have quite a ways to go. It hasn't introduced any more POVs, thank God. I'm enjoying it, but it's definitely not as compelling as some of the other ones. And because there's so many POVs and I think we're jumping around relatively the same time frame, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on half the time. But as far as what's going on that I know of, basically we are following a set of characters. They're all human, and the way that humans work in this kind of Wayfarers universe is that they have left Earth a long time ago and took to the stars in a migratory fleet. The fleet would travel around and settle little colonies on planets, and you would have humans that would stay behind on the colonies, but then most humans would stay on the fleet. And I believe that humans that are born on these ships are called exodans. I may be wrong. It may just be all of the humans in general are called exodans, but I'm pretty sure if they're born on the fleet, like in the exodan fleet, they're exodan. But yeah, so they also have colonies where other people will come from, like there's Martian colonies and there's other different colonies. But so one of our characters is from a colony. The rest of them are all born and raised on the fleet as far as I can remember, and so we're following this cast of characters just going through their lives at this kind of difficult time in the fleet's history because there was a disaster involving one of the ships of the fleet, and I think tens of thousands of people died. And with that tragedy kind of being in the background, our characters are going through their lives affected one way or the other by the tragedy. I think I'm just having a bit of a confusion. I guess I'm just having some confusion around what the starting incident of the story was and where everything is taking place in relation to that, as well as where we're going to go in the story. So I'm still enjoying it. I'm still wanting to see what happens and wanting to follow these characters. Definitely some characters I'm more invested in than others, but I wouldn't say any of them I'm particularly fond of in any way. I think they're just kind of all neutral for me, and so far I think that's fair just because we're so early. I have hope I'm going to like it, and it's still really early, so that is my thoughts on Record of a Spaceborne Few. Okay, so next we have to talk about Blood over Brighthaven. I don't even know where to begin with this. So the last time that I talked to you, I was probably 65% into it. I have finished it, and I have thoughts and kind of conflicting feelings. And so yeah, let's get into it. I finished this a couple days ago, but I really just needed to kind of gather my thoughts on it for a couple days and mull over how I felt about it. And I watched a couple other reviews about it just to see what the people were saying. Ultimately, at my core, I'm kind of a people pleaser, and I hate saying something that might upset people or voice an opinion that other people may not agree with, especially if it's about something you really love. I will say I did not hate this. I didn't even dislike it. I think it was good. I think it was just, there are some things that I thought about it, and there are some feelings that I have. If you really love this book and you don't want to hear any criticism about it, I would maybe skip ahead to the next section. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. I'm going to talk more about it in my wrap-up. With that said, disclaimer and everything, I think the themes in here are really valuable, and I think there are some really strong themes that are discussed, things that need to be talked about, and unfortunately, with our world being the way that it is, will always be relevant. I really appreciate that we are having those discussions, especially with the way that things are now. This was written 2 years ago, but it feels very fitting for right now as well. The themes at large of misogyny, classism, racism, religious appropriation, cultural appropriation, discrimination in all forms, racially motivated hate crimes, and and religious extremism and all of these things. I think these are so important to talk about. But my gripe with this was that it was super, super, super heavy-handed, and in a lot of ways it felt like they were repeating the same talking points over and over and over throughout the book, just phrased a little bit differently. And I think that a little bit more subtlety could have actually done this book some favors, in my opinion. It was just a little bit overt in a lot of the ways that discussions were had or character interactions played out, especially with some of the sexist comments and racist comments. Someone in a Goodreads comment said this in a way that I really liked, but they said it kind of felt like it was ripped straight out of a list of the most sexist or racist things that you can say. It kind of felt like a lot of these things were just ham-fisted, really heavy-handed. I do think that if this is your first introduction to a political fantasy, it's going to be world-shattering. It's going to be truly groundbreaking, and I think that that is a really good thing. I think that for the right reader, this is going to be exactly what you need to get introduced to very strong political messaging in fantasy and sci-fi. And you might be thinking, it doesn't sound like a bad thing to have more clear, straight to the point themes and messaging, and I think that that's true, but at the same time, this book does feel a little bloated with how handholdy it is around those themes, if that makes any sense. It just felt like the author was taking you by the hand and saying, here, look, here's the point. And while I loved the themes, and I do think they resonated with me, I think that the approach could have just been a little bit more subtlety, just a little bit gentler on guiding you to the point, letting the reader figure it out, and letting you analyze. This is something where it's not necessarily a criticism in the strongest sense of the word. It's more just a personal gripe. And ultimately, I think your mileage will vary in terms of how you feel about the messaging and the delivery of the themes in this. I think everybody is different, and so that's just something that I noticed that I didn't really love. Sorry if you hear clicking or typing. Now my fiance has joined me upstairs. So anyway, what I was saying about this, I think that the romance subplot in this just felt very unnecessary. With Siona not only being in a position of power to him as basically his boss, it also felt like she, especially in the beginning, was looking down on him so heavily and discriminating against his people and him at large, and it didn't make a lot of sense later on for him to be so interested in her, especially after some of the things that she does in this book. I don't know why he is romantically interested in her, and I think that that just kind of felt really unnecessary. And I think that a lot of the end of this book would have gone over better for me if it was just a platonic relationship between the two of them, but I just didn't think that the romance subplot was needed, and I don't think it was handled very well. It felt like an afterthought, just kind of tacked onto the last like 15% of the book. I think that kind of wraps up my criticisms of this, but I will say in terms of the things I liked, I will say that the magic system felt really, really interesting and very fresh. I think that the coding and programming style was really well done, and I think that I haven't really seen anything like that before, so I liked that. And I liked the ending, although at this point I think the story was losing me quite a bit. I struggled a lot with just kind of a lack of interest towards the end of the book. I'm glad that it committed, I would say, and took the stance that it did. I think that that was very well done. I'm trying to not say anything spoilery, but yeah, so sorry to be so hard on this one. I know a lot of people really, really love it, and I'm so disappointed that I didn't love it because I've had this one on my shelves for a really long time. I bought the Broken Binding edition because I thought I was gonna love it so much, and it's just been sitting on my shelf staring at me all this time, and I'm kind of bummed to say that I didn't love it. So if you loved this, I'm so happy for you. I think that it is a good book. I think that it just didn't really work for me. So that's Blood Over Brighthaven. So that's it in terms of my reading updates. As far as other things going on, we did not go to the Ren Fair that we were supposed to go to yesterday. I think I was just kind of under the weather, and I think it was just like a quick 2-day cold situation because I felt pretty crappy on Friday at work, and I think Thursday night I didn't feel well either. And then yesterday I felt a bit better. I didn't have like the runny nose and the like constant. Have you ever had like something where you constantly feel like a tickle in your nose, like you need to sneeze, but then it never comes? It kind of felt like that. So yesterday I felt a lot better in terms of the runny nose and the sneezing and everything like that. But hopefully we can go next weekend. I would really love to go to one more before the season ends. So that's the tentative plan. I will let you know if that ends up happening. That's like a week away from now though, so who knows? But I think that's just about it. So I will see you in the next update. so it's been a little bit. I filmed a vlog update a few days ago and it was dark and the footage was basically unusable, so I'm having to refilm my last update and some new updates. So let's get into that. One of the things that I said in that update that I had to scrap was that I started a new manga series. It's not new in general, but it's new to me, and it's called Witch Hat Atelier. Sorry, I just changed the lighting settings a little bit because it was kind of like, it's really, really bright in that window right now. So yeah, so Witch Hat Atelier is a fairly short manga series. It follows a young girl named Coco who is working at a tailor shop with her mother, and in this world, magic exists and can only be performed by witches, which have to be born. They cannot be made, I suppose. If you are born with those powers, you go into training and become an apprentice, and then you learn to cast magic and things like that. Through a series of events that I'm not going to go into specifics about because that would spoil something, Coco ends up becoming an apprentice. One second, I'm gonna let Mochi in. Do you wanna come in? He is absolutely thrilled that he gets to be in here. I don't normally let him into this room because this is the only room in the house that we can have plants and things, but I figured I'm filming, I'll let him in. So he's really excited right now. And he's rubbing against the tripod, so hang on tight. So anyway, yeah, Witch Hat Atelier. I don't want to go too much into the plot because it's a manga, it's a breeze to get through. The moral of the story is I really liked it. It was very, very cute. The art style is absolutely lovely. He's just like freaking out and rolling all over the place. He's so happy right now. I'm gonna leave him to it. If you hear a bunch of noise, it's my son. So I really liked that first volume that I read. I want to continue the series, so I went on Pango and found someone selling volumes 1 through 5 for $20, which is a huge steal because normally manga is like $13, $15, $18 a piece. And thankfully this series is pretty short, so it's not a ton of volumes that I need to be purchasing, but I'm gonna buy just 1 through 5 to start because that was the bundle I saw. Oh my god, he's losing his mind. The other update that I included in that scrapped footage was a gaming update. I have made another character on Oblivion Remastered, which if you're new here, you may not know I am obsessed with Oblivion, but I love the Elder Scrolls games, I love RPGs in general. So it's really exciting to get to experience everything again with the new graphics and some overhauled mechanics and things. So I have a mage character that I started in one of my last vlogs. I have like a thief, assassin, Dark Brotherhood kind of evil character. And then I really wanted to make a melee character because half of the fun of Oblivion is just smacking things with your sword. And so I made an Argonian. And it's funny because my character was originally a female Argonian, and then I was kind of like going through the sewers, which is like the tutorial section, and I said, I don't really like how the female head is like really gigantic compared to their body. He's rubbing on the tripod again, just stay tuned. So before you leave like the tutorial section, the sewer, it asks you if you want to change anything about your character. So I ended up giving my character a sewer sex change. So I have a male Argonian that I'm playing as. He's a melee character. He's very cool. Dude, you're moving all of my stuff. Sorry, I had to adjust because my posture was absolutely killing me. But yeah, maybe I'll put some B-roll of the new character, and now that I'm in the Shivering Isles DLC, which is my favorite, one of my favorite gaming pieces of media ever made was the Shivering Isles DLC for Oblivion. So now that I'm doing that in the remaster, I'll definitely put some footage because it is gorgeous. So that covers everything that I lost in the scrapped footage. So let's talk about new updates. I kind of found myself in a little like 2-day reading slump because I just feel like I was not really enjoying anything lately. Any of you who are uterus owners, maybe you will relate, but sometimes around that time I just get really like apathetic and I don't enjoy anything as much, or I'm engaging with media but I'm not really feeling anything, and so I'm kind of in a little bit of like an apathy reading slump right now. So that's been affecting my read of Record of a Spaceborne Few. I'm just not really enjoying it as much as I wanted to, but part of that is the initial premise didn't really have me gripped as much as some of the other ones, so I'm not really enjoying that as much as I would like. I picked up and dropped 3 books between yesterday and today because none of them were working for me, and I don't know if they even would have worked if I wasn't feeling apathetic. I feel like the writing just wasn't working with me. So just to quickly run through the DNFs, one of them was The Specimen, and I got pretty far into that actually. I got maybe 30% into it, but there was a couple things that were just rubbing me really the wrong way about it. One of them is the main character painting herself brown at one point to disguise herself as a servant. I didn't really love that. Sorry, the lighting keeps drastically changing, but I tried to fix it. So yeah, The Specimen DNF'd that around like 30-ish%. And then I also picked up and dropped If You Still Recognize Me me, but I picked that one and dropped it pretty quickly because the writing was just not working for me. It just felt very juvenile with the tone, and I understand that that's the case because it's YA, I get it. But there were some references and the way that the characters spoke with a lot of like slang, it felt a little bit like a time capsule of a teenagedom that I did not have, and it just kind of was like, I don't know, it just felt a little cringe. But I don't think it's a bad book. I didn't get that far. I really have no idea about it. It wasn't working at the time. And then today I tried The Haunting of Hill House, and I got maybe 15 pages in and fucking nothing was happening. And it's a short book. I just struggle a lot with classics. So again, I have no idea if I'm going to pick it back up once my apathy period is over, but those are the things that I tried and did not enjoy. However, I picked up a short story today, a little bit later in the day, and I really, really liked it. So I might be cured, tentatively. We'll have to see how this continues to go. But I read The Six Deaths of the Saint by Alex E. Harrow. Wow, for 29 pages, it was just a delight. It was lyrical. It was beautifully descriptive. It just completely captured me from the moment it started. And for an only 29-page story, it's really impressive how much it captures you right away and the emotional impact that it had as well. It actually really struck me. And so I'm really happy that I picked that up just on a whim, hoping for something to break my apathy, and it did. So I really enjoyed that. I cannot talk too much longer because I do have something I need to leave the house for. That's all my updates for right now. I'm still working on Record of a Spaceborne Few. I would love to do one more update at the end of the vlog just to kind of tie everything together and share my final thoughts on that because I am still working my way through it. We'll probably have some Oblivion B-roll after this as well, and then we can chat about that, chat about Record of a Spaceborne Few, maybe anything else that I pick up or do in that time. So I will see you in the next update. Bye. been a few days, and this time we are not on the floor. I'm in front of my bookshelves because I just finished filming for a different video. So I figured I would just give my vlog update here, and I have a couple updates to chat about, and then we will outro the vlog. So last time I talked to you, I think I was talking about Record of a Spaceborne Few and how I was doing with the read for that. And suffice to say, it is not going very well. I have decided to DNF, unfortunately. It just isn't working for me. And it's a bummer because I love Becky Chambers and I love this Wayfarer series. I love books 1, 2, and 4. And I'm really bummed that this one just was not working for me. It just really did not resonate. My biggest problem with this was there was just way too many characters, way too many POVs. There are 5 POVs in this, and it alternates so quickly between the characters that you don't really get a chance to bond with or build rapport with any of them. And I think you could have cut it down to probably 3 of the 5 POVs and it would have been much better for it. I think that the other ones were Tessa and Kip, and I just did not think we needed them. I just did not like those POVs at all. I think nothing was happening in them. I think that the other 3 definitely had more to bring to the story in terms of the themes and the emotional beats, but also just actual content and plot happening. I just could not get myself to continue reading it. I could not bring myself to pick it back up. I actually DNF'd it and marked it as read on Goodreads, and then I said, I feel weird about DNFing a book and then rating it anyway. So I ended up just making like a new DNF tag on my Goodreads and marking it as a DNF because I got 66% into it, which does count for something. I read 238 pages of it. I don't want that to mean nothing, but I feel weird about rating it because I didn't finish it, which this won't be in my wrap up because I didn't finish it. But if I were to rate it, I'd probably give it like a 1.5, honestly, like a 1.5 star out of 5. I just don't think there was really anything I liked in this aside from a couple of things from the 3 POVs that I actually cared about. I'm so bummed because I love Becky Chambers, I really do. But this book was not a success for me, and To Be Taught Fortunate was another book that I read recently by her, and I also did not like that one. I did finish it because it's a novella. It was really easy to get through, but I'm bummed that the last 2 books that I've read from her I didn't like. And on better reading news, I have also started another book for the kind of spooky season. I started Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna Van Veen, and so I've read actually one other book by this author. I read My Darling Dreadful Thing. I think I mentioned that earlier probably, but I started this one and so far I like it. I'm really early into it. I think that the really atmospheric, spooky vibes of this are definitely what I wanted right now, especially because it's been really gloomy and rainy and dark lately, which is very up my alley. Like I said, I'm really early into it. I can't talk too much about it, but it's in a historical setting. I believe it's set in 1887, and there are these twin sisters, and one of them has become very unwell, very sickly. Yeah, and it's Sarah who is sickly, and her other twin, Lucy, is now coming to visit her at her estate because she is very, very unwell and they're very worried about her health. There's just kind of a whole lot that unfolds from there because there's this mysterious bog body that Sarah and her husband and like the staff had discovered buried on their property, and the bog body is very, I suppose, enthralling to Sarah. She's just fascinated by this bog body and starts to get a little weird. But so far with the atmosphere around the marsh and this kind of disgusting, bloated, rotting ambiance, it just feels very autumn. It feels very late autumn also because of the decay and the rot. So I do like this one and I'm hoping to continue it and finish it by the end of the month. And then beyond that, sorry, I'm looking at my whiteboard. If you watched the most niche books I've ever read video, my whiteboard makes an appearance in that. So I'm just looking at that because I wrote all my reading updates on it. Since then, I also read, I think I talked to you already about The 6 Deaths of the Saint. I think I already did. My memory is fucking trash, by the way. Right, because I think I was talking about how it might break my apathy. So yeah, I did talk about it. And then I read Garlic and the Vampire, which is a middle grade graphic novel, and it was really, really cute. I picked it up from my library because it was on Hoopla through my library so I could borrow it digitally, and I really thought it was adorable. It was very quick. It was a super easy read because it's middle grade. I really love the art style and the characterization of the different characters, which, okay, so to explain what Garlic and the Vampire is, basically there is this witch who has created sentient vegetables. So all of the vegetables in her garden are alive, and they've developed like personalities and consciousness, and so they basically work with the witch and care for the crops. And they run a little farmer's market, and it's very cute. And one day, there's this abandoned castle in the mountains. They see smoke rising from the castle, and so they think someone might be living there now, and they're like, oh my god, what if it's a vampire? And long story short, our main character, Garlic, ends up being sent out into the woods to go hunt down the vampire, basically, and get rid of it. And it ends up taking a twist that you might not expect, or you would expect maybe if you read a lot of middle grade, but it was really cute. It was very wholesome. I did enjoy it, and so there is a sequel, I believe. Sorry, a truck is driving driving by. It's garbage day. I always film on the best days. Yeah, there's a sequel called Garlic and the Witch, I believe, but I'm looking forward to that one as well because it's really, really cute. I think my library also has that one. I think that's everything on my reading updates. I did go to the other Ren Fair that we wanted to go to, so I have some B-roll of that. We had a great time. The fair was really awesome. It was bigger than we were expecting, so it was just like a really good packed day. And that marks the end of the Ren Fair season, so next year we're going to try to go to 2 more fairs because we usually alternate a couple of different fairs, and maybe we'll add on this one that we just went to, and we'll kind of do 2 a year is the goal. I think that's everything that I have to talk about. I feel like I've been kind of yapping incessantly at you, so sorry if it was rambly. I know it was kind of all over the place. It did not go the way I expected. Some reads that just did not pan out, but that's okay. That sometimes just happens. So thank you so much for watching, and it means a lot to me that you're here. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It means a lot, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.